So hi Frank, how are you?
Hey, great. Excellent. How about you, Alan?
Great. I'm good, given the strange times we're living in. So it's great to connect with you for these series of interviews we're conducting. Just reaching out to people in the outdoor lifestyle, landscape, and construction industry, just touching base with people, seeing how you are, getting to know you a little bit better. I think it's a great opportunity. People are locked down at home now, and it's a great time to put out good content. We've interviewed quite a few people in the industry, and so it's great to connect. And
Uh,
where are you now, Frank? That's this here, New York. You in New York?
right now we're home like everybody else, I think, and just absorbing it all.
Where's home?
Yeah, home is in Ottawa.
Yeah, you're in Ottawa at the moment. So you're locked down at the moment with the family, trying to keep your sanity like everybody else, right?
Yeah, and surprisingly enough, with 5 kids around, and everyone's happy. Everyone's still good. So yeah.
Beautiful. That's a testament to keeping them all calm and entertained. So, Frank, first of all, I'd love you to tell our audience a little bit about what you do, and then maybe because I know it's an interesting story, knowing a bit about you, and maybe tell us a little bit about your journey, if you can talk about that, how you got there. Because, like anything in life, you end up at a place and you look over your shoulder and realize, oh, I've taken quite a journey here. So, tell us a little bit about that, what you do, and how you actually got there.
Well, again, thanks so much for having me, Alan. I really appreciate
Pleasure.
having these types of conversations. And I started out. I'm going back about 23 years when I was even thinking about the landscape industry, but I never imagined myself being in the position or going through the process that I did. And I've learned so much through that process. Um, and that's part of what I want to share today. And because we go through our own process of life, we have our own life lessons. I come from a background of my parents wanted me to go to university and wanted me to have like a bachelor's degree or a degree to fall back on to have a career, right? So my focus at first was, okay, I'll go to university, get my psychology, a background in basically a bachelor's degree and master's in psychology. So I focused on psychology. Then I got a job doing group therapy with inmates in a federal prison.
Wow.
So working with violent offenders. But you know what I loved doing the most was just working outside. So I got my first job. My summer jobs paying my studies, I had done a lot of landscaping, kind of grew with a company to be a foreman, doing stuff from maintenance to construction, learned a lot.
Yeah.
But when I started my full-time job, I've noticed that I was missing that more than anything else. So at the time, I told my girlfriend at the time, I said, well, you know what? I think I'll start my own company just on the side to be able to buy my tools and just stuff we need around the house. And she kind of laughed. And so I borrowed her Toyota Corolla and started doing little contracts, putting pamphlets around, and all of a sudden got more and more contracts. And we built that company to over 100 employees over the next few years after that.
Wow.
While at the same time keeping up with the federal government, because it was very important in my mind to still kind of have a safety net.
Yes.
And for me, it was always temporary. I never thought I would build something else. But at that point, we had over 100 employees, and it was right around 2008, 2009. And all of a sudden, the economy crashed.
Yes.
And we only felt it. We felt it sooner than a lot of people because we had just finished building a nursery, and at the wrong time. And so our competition were able to do stuff that we weren't able to do. So they had been there for 50 years.
Yes.
They were able to cut down some pricing, do all these things. So that being said, I had to redefine myself at that point. I had to become more efficient. And then after that, I kept the business going, just a smaller business. I moved to Ottawa. That was another point in my life where I had to change again. more involved into the pool industry at that point, started another business in the pool industry, and then started doing a lot of consulting at that point, right around between 2013 and 15, doing more and more consulting, speaking. And at one point, about 3 years ago, I said, you know what? I'm just going to sell the last company. I'm just going to focus on consulting.
Yes.
And so that's where it brings me to what I'm doing today, is just coaching, consulting, and working with, I think, one of the best industries in the world, and it's people who what they do. Yeah.
Got it. And was it a case of when you'd been through in the landscape business, which is it's a great business, it's a great industry, but it's a tough business as well. Like, you're literally, you work hard first of all outside, and you evolve, and you get employees and stuff like that. But it's very hands-on, and it's very people kind of a business as well. A lot of people to manage, a lot of people to employ. So was it just a case of you were just looking for a big kind of change in your life when you moved into consulting?
Yeah. So my main reason, I think, for transitioning was, if there's one thing I wished I would have learned sooner, was how to better manage my time. When you love what you do, sometimes time management is the most challenging part. And with my wife at the time, we had a young family, growing all these, having all these great goals and growing this business, and then going through these challenges together. I've put all my focus on trying to figure out how to grow a business, when what I should have done probably at that time was surround myself with people who could help. And I was trying to figure out on my own. And I think I would have saved a lot of time, effort, and challenges if I would have done that. So
I think that's I think that's, sorry to jump in for a second, but I think what you said there struck a chord. I think that's, I'm going to guess that's pretty common with some types of personalities, that you kind of put your head down, you don't want to lift your head up and look left or right to look for help. You're kind of like, no, I can figure this out, and it's a lonely road. And then it's only afterwards, in 2020 vision, you look back and you say, I could have, excuse me, I could have reached out for help and could have done it differently. So I totally resonates.
Yeah. And looking back, that's kind of what happened naturally. When I did start reaching out, and I've noticed that people reach out back. So it's like one of these things where it becomes a win-win.
Reciprocal. Yes, absolutely. 100%.
You find a mentor that connects you to somebody else, that connects 100%. You to somebody else.
Absolutely. It's all about the network. It's all about connections. Like good connections are just more powerful than anything. And what it also makes always kind of brightens my kind of heart or outlook on life, is that people in general, most people are willing to help. There's this great, people will help you if they can. They will actually, you just have to ask, or you just let them know, and they'll and then you help people. So as you said, it just becomes this reciprocal thing, which is very, very powerful then, right? It's not about money, it's about kind of relationships. So I think that's really cool. Yeah. So we've kind of, you've talked a little bit about your journey, which again I think is very, very interesting. We'll probably talk for a couple of hours about that. But so basically, explain your kind of, when you say the word consulting, it's a catch-all word, consultant. So explain what you do for your clients in this industry, and what that involves.
So yeah, if I had a better word, I would use it. But in general, think of it this way. Anyone who's a high performer. So if you think of a sport, right, like an athlete, top performing athletes gets someone, not necessarily because that person is better. It's because that person has the tools, some resources that person needs to stay focused and to stay accountable. And it's proven that people who stay accountable, who have an accountability partner or a coach, or someone to help them stay focused, achieve goals a lot faster. So I see that as being my job.
Yeah, got it. And would it be fair to say that another value you bring to businesses is you bring that kind of cold outside perspective. And would it be fair to say that when people are in their business and under the hood, so to speak, working on the engine, that they often miss a lot of things that are happening in their business, and you can come in with a very cold and kind of honest eye and then help them to identify these problems and fix them. Would that be a fair assessment of what you do?
I think that's exactly what it is. I try to, when I come in, I come in the business without the emotion, and sometimes
Yes, the emotion, that's the
business
word.
owners attached
That's the
to
word.
all the it could be the good times or the bad times within
It's
the
their
business.
baby. It's their baby. Yeah, it's their baby. And don't and they're like, I'm thinking as well, just kind of, postulating that, business owners, whether they be men or women, they would, they wouldn't want to talk to their partners about certain things, problems in their business. They don't want to bring business problems home. So they want to keep that nice kind of, happy kind of, feeling about it. But you can come in then, which is, I just see the value in that, coming in and saying, actually, do you know you do these things? No, here's the way you do, and you could do them this way. So in terms of when you engage with a business, can you talk a little bit about what your goals are for what a company gets out of it? I mean, I'm going to kind of, straight away say there's probably cost savings, stuff like that, great. But in general, what are you looking when you walk away from, or, not walk away from, even because you're probably, you're involved, but, what do you kind of say, well, that's a success? What does that mean to you?
Well, a success for me is when I can bring a client the same feeling that I've had through. Success for me has a different meaning maybe than somebody else. But when I hear clients say something like, my goal was to have more time with my family, and now I have more time with my family. Or, hey, my goal was to be able to pay my employees what they're worth and to grow a business that's profitable. Sometimes it's just about, like, they just want to profit. They love what they do, but they just want to be sustainable. They want to be able to do it in a sustainable way that's profitable. Then eventually have that freedom of working away, like out of the business, and still the business can run on its own. For some business owners, it's that. Business owners.
So it can become self-sustainable. Then it's not self-sustainable, but it's a business that's kind of not dependent on them. Like if they don't turn out, like I had this conversation, I think, with Nathan Helder of Gelderman Landscapes and Southbrook Consulting, and it's about, just because the business should run even if you don't turn up that day. if everybody's depending on you just to get everything moving or running or operating, that's not a healthy position necessarily to be in. You're not future-proofing your business. So I know you teach people about that, right?
Yeah, and I think business should feel more, should feel good. It should feel like you have a sense of freedom too by having business. It's not something that's tying you down. Some people actually get into business to have more freedom, and then they notice, wow, I feel more tied down to people because I need to keep them on board, and it's putting a strain on me, or I need to buy more equipment that's putting a strain on me. So sometimes what you think is going to set you free actually ties you down.
That's really interesting. That's an interesting concept. So you feel that some people get into business and they feel it's going to be, they work for the man, and then they get into business and they think, oh, it's liberation. It's going to liberate me. And then after a couple of years, it's like, oh no, now I'm the man, and this is bad. Like, I'm kind of stuck, right? Another theme that came up in the conversations that I've had in some other interviews is teaching companies how to generate a profit. Some people, a lot of people in the outdoor lifestyle business, landscaping, construction business, run a business in terms of to get jobs, and they keep their heads down. They don't really think enough about profit until, the end of the year and the books come in and they cross their fingers. Whereas now there's all of these, the LMN and tools like that, which kind of will tell you, no, hang on, here's a job and here's how to price it correctly, because a lot of people don't price jobs correctly. Would that be a fair comment?
Yeah, you know what, Alan? I was so surprised to learn from companies like Element who keep score and data and all this stuff. But if you have over 90% of companies who don't even run a business with a budget, then if you don't have a proper budget and you don't know these numbers, you can't price your jobs very accurately. I mean, you might be lucky and end up pricing your jobs because of your experience, but if you really don't know, every time you're pricing out a job, it's actually scary.
Yes.
And so when I work with companies, and in times like these, what we're doing is we're looking at the company in a good scenario. So we're identifying different scenarios, right? Different budgets. So a good, bad, and ugly scenario. What does it look like on paper for you? And we get rid of the waste. So the leaner we got to get, in worse the situation gets, I guess, the more we have to look at what's essential and what's not essential.
Got it.
And then, we work a plan for each to feel more empowered in case things need to go.
Got it. So it's basically about having a plan, a solid plan, having a budget, but the realization in business that the budget also changes, right? Because outside circumstances change. And right now is a classic example of you having your budget and everybody saying, oh, 2020 is going to be great. We've got lots of work on. We're going to, break ground in mid-May or late, whatever it is, and work all the way up to October. Maybe we'll get November out of it. And suddenly it's like, no, stop. Stop everything. People now have less money, So talk a little bit about if, given that perspective you just spoke about, having a budget. You said good, bad, and the ugly. I like that term. That totally explains what you mean. So right now, if you could give some tips to companies, like higher level stuff, just what they should be doing. It's changed environment. So rather than keeping the head down and trying to ignore things, what would be proactive in your opinion in terms of businesses, tips that they can put into place right now?
Well, I'll start with the first thing that I think is the most important is the mindset. I know we hear it and we kind of take it for granted sometimes because it sounds so general.
Huge. It's huge.
But mindset just means when you wake up in the morning, make the decision to be proactive. Like,
yes,
it's hard for everyone to take a look at what's going on in the news, and we have to do it because we want to keep track of what's going on. But you have to make that decision right from waking up in the morning. And if you feel you're more productive waking up earlier, and you feel like you get that sense of productivity, and you feel like that gives you energy, then do it. Whatever gives you energy, do it. So if it's eating better, all these things, these good habits, the more you do it, the better you feel, the more you feel like doing more, the more you feel like inspiring others to do more. And if you're a leader, like a business owner, you're going to have to be the leader for your team. You're going to have to be that energy, or that where people look up to you as like a sense of they feel like you got what it takes to go through this. Yes. And even if you don't have all the answers, and nobody does, at least you have the level of energy you need. And that all starts with you choosing the mindset you want. So just realizing that the mindset is super important, just because what we're going through right here is kind of what you go through when you're grieving something, because we had it so good, right?
Yes.
So you go through the stages of like denial, isolation. Well, we're isolated not for the same reasons, but denial, isolation. Then we go through anger. We see that right now. People are like getting fed up, right? Bargaining. So people are like bargaining on, do I do this? Do I not do it? Am I doing it for the right reasons? You're kind of doubting yourself, right?
Yes.
And then sense of depression sometimes when you feel hopeless.
Definitely.
And then at one point, when you've gone through all this process and realize that it's okay. Okay, I accept that, but I still know I have to be proactive. So that's what I mean by mindset. It's just accepting all this, that you can feel all the things, but then still saying, I know what I got to do. So
that's a big tip. Yeah, I think that's really good.
So mindset, and when I sit down with a client, the first thing I check the first 5 minutes is, do we have that mindset? Because I know I can't do anything else without the mindset.
Got it. So that's the fundamental base rock.
Fundamental base for doing any other work.
So it's really interesting that you made that point, because we also spoke to one of your colleagues, Sam Gamble. Did an interview with Sam Gamble, and one of the big things with Sam was, and I know you've worked with Sam, is his communication. Communication is like over communication and leadership. So, and we touched on the conversation where he said that he has, 80 staff and everybody's like shut down, and him continuing to communicate with even if there's not, a ton of stuff to say, but it's just, and other people said it too. And that's, so if you're running a business and you have a team, it's very important because it's a vacuum otherwise. And they're just watching the news and listening to things, and you have to give them that leadership and say, we're all in this together. I'm still here. Do you need help or whatever, right? So I think that's totally key. So what else would you say to a company? I mean, obviously companies should kind of reset their budgets for the rest of the year.
Yeah. So for me, I would say once you get the mindset and you're ready to face it head on, what you got to face head on next is your next biggest, I guess, decision is your plan. So it all has to do with money. Surviving in business means that you're healthy also on the financial side, and the financial side will help you take care of your business and your people and everything else along. So keeping money safe and closer to the business, getting rid of any waste right away. So going through that list of essential things you need and non-essentials. So I know it hurts to get rid of, let's say, machinery. I had a conversation with a guy who's been in business for 40 years. He's got a super good foundation business-wise, and he's really in a good position financially. But you know what he told me? He said, I'm looking at those machines and I know it's not a good decision for me to keep them if I reach like say we have the green, yellow, red budget, right?
Yep.
Because as soon as I reach that yellow zone, I know if I'm there in June, I have to get rid of those machines, just because it's not smart otherwise. It's just not the right thing to do.
You can always rent back machines and lease back machines and adapt your business model just to help with that. But that's back, I think it feels like that's back to me to that emotion. If you have machines, they're your machines.
Like a trophy, right? Yeah.
Trophy, and you're different to everyone else. We have our own machines. It's kind of a badge of pride. So again, it's getting off that kind of that pride pedestal and the emotion and kind of saying, no, hang on, what does the spreadsheet tell me? Spreadsheet tells me, no, that's too expensive. Gotcha.
Yeah. So the numbers and really taking a look at the money, where it's going, what the waste, and really closing out the holes in the business. I call them the holes because that's where your money's leaking out. And when the times are really safe and really good, then you know what, you can kind of not afford to do that, but it is what it is. Then you also have to take a look at being decisive. Because where a lot of people, they have everything they have the right tool, they have everything they need. I mean, they have the right tools, they have the right people around them, but they're not decisive. So there's still nothing happening and they're afraid to make the wrong decisions. But you know what? You will never make all the right decisions. And letting your team know that you're going to try, but you can't promise that it's always going to be the right decisions. And when you're wrong, you're ready to accept better ideas. You're ready to accept changing directions. You're ready to adapt.
But be decisive. Be decisive. Don't be indecisive. Indecision kills it.
Yeah. So if you stay stuck, and because I see people for the last week, people are debating: am I going out this week? Am I not going out? And I've spoken to someone who said, you know what? I still don't know if I should go out. I'm like, you know what? You can make that decision in half an hour. Make the phone calls, take a look at your regulations and make the decisions. Yes or no. Talk to your staff and ask them if they're ready, you're ready. Bring them the information you have. Make the decision.
Yeah, and go forward with it. And that in itself is liberating as well, because you're not prevaricating. Because that takes all your energy and your emotions, and it's stressful, right?
Yeah, absolutely. And then making a list of all the resources that are out there in a time like this is so helpful. So I've started doing a list of all the resources for, let's say, the financial side of the business, a list of resources for mentors in terms of leadership. So when you start feeling down, who do you go see for that? And then when you need resources for training your staff, who do you go see for that? Do you need new resources for maybe subcontractors? You need to buy time, because this summer we're not going to be as productive as we were probably in other seasons where we start early. We have all the, this summer, because of starting and having to finish and the delays on jobs maybe, and perhaps all these things because of the way how we have to we need to buy back time. So the stuff we're not good at doing, we need to find people who are good at doing it and we need to focus on what we're good at doing, finding more of those jobs that we can really do. I guess we're more productive, we're more efficient at doing, and putting really our energy on what will make the business more sustainable. So getting rid of the waste and doing more of what's important.
Got it. Those are great tips. So it's been great to talk to you today. I mean, my desire is for you to impart some wisdom, because I've obviously know you and know what a great job you do for companies, and you give them that outside perspective and help them really get through the good times, the bad times, and I think this is unprecedented times. So I think it's great. We will tag you in the comments on the video, or wherever we post it. We'll post it as many places as we can. And I'm sure people will be able to reach out to you or ask you questions or for advice maybe right now, because I think it's a time for us all to help each other.
I'd be happy to. And thank you so much for having me, Alan. Really
Awesome.
appreciate it.
That's great. Thanks, Frank. Have a great day.
You
Take
too.
care. Bye.